In the final years of the Third Age, Middle-earth stands on the brink of destruction. The Free Peoples are under threat from Sauron, the Lord of the Rings, who prepares his vast armies for war. At this late hour, the leaders of elves, dwarves, and men come together at the Council of Elrond to decide their next move. After the Fellowship is assembled and heads south to destroy the source of Sauron's power, the remaining leaders prepare for the Dark Lord's assault upon the northern lands. The elven and dwarven races have always had little trust for each other, but now they must unite and fight a common enemy. Rivendell is a hidden refuge and stronghold for the elves. Until now, this ancient city has been spared from the winds of war. Under siege from the goblins of the Misty Mountains, Rivendell is no longer safe for the elves. As time is now running out, Elrond forms a plan to unite the elves and dwarves of the north against Sauron's advancing armies. His most powerful warrior, Glorfindel, will join forces with the dwarf leader Glóin to make war on the goblins and forge this alliance. The goblins have overtaken High Pass Road, blocking the vital connection between east and west. Here, Glorfindel and Glóin now face their first challenge as they battle to retake the pass. With the goblin army chased from High Pass, elves can now travel to the lands beyond the Misty Mountains. The war against the goblins continues. Evil wells forth from an ancient fortress deep in the mountains, a foul place that has recently reawakened. The goblins have a new leader who carries out Sauron's tyrannical will. Once this sinister overlord is vanquished, the goblins will be scattered and confused, loosening Sauron's grip on this region. In the battle's aftermath, a lone dwarven prisoner is freed and desperately begs for Glorfindel and Glóin's help. His dwarven clan in the Blue Mountains is under attack from a terrible dragon. It is rumored that the dragon served Sauron in exchange for one of the dwarven rings of power stolen from the dwarves long ago. After a long journey, the heroes arrive at the Blue Mountains. They find an army of dwarves preparing for battle outside the entrance of a cave. The evil dragon has forced them from their home beneath the mountains, claiming their underground domain as his new lair. Sauron's dragon has been defeated and the dwarven ring reclaimed. However, Glorfindel and Glóin are in disbelief when their new allies refuse to join in the war against Sauron, choosing instead to return to mining the riches of their mountains. Disappointed, the heroes set out for the elven port city of the Grey Havens, hoping for a better reception from the elves. But as they draw near the city, it is clear that all is not well there. After thousands of years, elves in Middle-earth have finally begun their exodus homeward across the sea. The port city of Mithlond, known as the Grey Havens, is where they converge to set forth westward. But now even this remote city is not safe from Sauron. The corsairs of Umbar from the south have choked off their naval passage westward and threatened to overrun the ancient port. The dwarves of the Blue Mountains will fight alongside the free peoples of Middle-earth after all. As this new alliance is celebrated, Arwen Evenstar arrives with the help of the Eagles. She brings the heroes troubled tidings from distant lands. Sauron's massive armies from Dol Guldur have moved north into Mirkwood, the domain of the elven king Thranduil. The new allies must now rise up and prepare for the long journey eastward to aid their distant friends. Arwen urges the heroes to allow the Eagles to take them directly to Thranduil's side for further counsel. While the heroes wing their way east, Sauron's armies march north from Dol Guldur and arrive at a human settlement on the river Kelduin. Dwarves from nearby Erebor, led by King Dain, come to the aid of their human allies to the south. Before the battle ensues, Dain sends a messenger to King Thranduil of the Wood Elves, asking for their help. The dwarves must fight a desperate battle while they await reinforcements from the elves. The first wave of attackers is repelled, but thousands more are approaching. The dwarven messenger returns from Mirkwood with bleak news. There will be no help from the elves, as their lands are also in danger. King Dain must fall back to the city of Dale and make his stand there. The fate of Middle-earth hangs by a thread. The host from Dol Guldur marches relentlessly north towards Dale and Erebor. Sauron's armies lay siege to Minas Tirith in the south. Frodo makes his way into Mordor. Glorfindel and Glóin arrive at Mirkwood to meet with King Thranduil of the Wood Elves to further the alliance between elf and dwarf. Unaware of the council taking place in Mirkwood, King Dain of the Dwarves grimly prepares for what may well be his final battle.
Dwarves, defend Erebor or die!
The arrival of the elves from Mirkwood assures a victory for the free peoples. The siege of Erebor is broken. The shadow is lifting from Middle-earth. There is but one task left. Lay bare the pits of Dol Guldur and drive the forces of darkness out of the northern lands.
Slay the enemy to the last!
The combined armies of elf and dwarf prepare to assault the evil fortress of Dol Guldur. The final battle of the war in the north is about to begin. With Sauron's forces defeated, Galadriel at last throws down the walls of Dol Guldur. Peace has returned to Middle-earth. War of the Ring is over. The Dark Lord Sauron's influence spreads far across the lands of Middle-earth. Goblins descend from the Misty Mountains. A vast army flows from Dol Guldur, his evil fortress in Mirkwood. The war in the north begins in Lorien, where the host from Dol Guldur intends to crush the elves who have long lived in their nearby enchanted forest. The elves of Lorien have been driven from their enchanted forest. The tide of darkness from Dol Guldur will now spread to all of the northern lands. Sauron has influence on all things untamed. The goblins have been roused from their mountain caves and will fight for the Dark Lord. Even now, their armies advance on the ancient elven port city of Mithla. Sauron also sends the corsairs of Umbar to attack from the sea. Once this port is destroyed, the elves will have no hope of escaping to the west. The remaining elves have scattered into the hills. Now the goblins have an ancient debt to pay to the hobbits of the nearby Shire. Long ago, a great goblin chief led an army into these lands known as the Shire. The defending hobbits killed the chief and routed the invaders. The Battle of Green Fields has not been forgotten by the goblins and their kind. Now their leader returns to the land of the hobbits with a determination to triumph where his ancestors failed. The scourging of the Shire begins. The goblin invasion appears to be unstoppable.
this, ya bullies!
Now hobbits and elves alike have been crushed and scattered throughout the lands. Dwarves and men are making a stand in the abandoned stronghold of Foremost. The goblins seek to destroy the defenders and take this ancient fortress as a prize. The goblins have cleared this region of Sauron's enemies. Rivendell is near. But its destruction must wait. For now. As the goblin hordes ravage the western lands, Sauron's forces from Dol Guldur spread north into Mirkwood. The Old Forest Road divides the Great Woodland and is key to the domination of the region. The Wood Elves of this forest, led by King Thranduil, have long protected this road. They will not give it up without a fight. The elves of Mirkwood are now scattered and demoralized. The remaining few now retreat west to Rivendell. The time has come for Sauron to bring the war to the dwarves. They are a proud people and will not easily surrender. The dragons of the Withered Heath are an ancient breed. Their hatred for the dwarves burns bright even after 1,000 years. Sauron's leaders turn to them, seeking a possible ally in this brewing war against the dwarves. Of Sauron enlists the Dragon Lord to help root the dwarves out of Erebor and rid them of their king. The coveted mountain fortress itself will be given as a prize. The time has come for dragons to fight for Sauron. At last, the final battle against the dwarves and the men of Dale. If Sauron's forces are victorious here, then all of the lands east of the Misty Mountains will be under his rule. There will be no respite for the scattered forces of the north. Just as the dwarves were long ago driven from the mines of Moria, now they've been purged from their mountain home in Erebor. Rivendell is the crown jewel of the north. This sacred city is the last refuge for the free peoples of Middle-earth. Sauron has but one purpose now: to claim this ancient place for his own and extinguish all hope for the free peoples. Sauron's reign over the northern lands is unopposed, as the leaders of the free people are no more. Darkness now falls upon all of Middle-earth.